In this episode of Experimental, we're going to go more mental than we've ever gone before. I've been spending way too much time with the Kona Hanzo ESD lately, and it's a bad influence on me. I've never had a 170mm dropper in my life, and it is a game changer. My legs are usually too short, and frames are built with seat tubes too high. So spending some time on this has given me some bad ideas. Also, the longer I have a bike, the more I start to tinker with it, whether it's stripping it down and painting it or rebuilding it a million different ways. The wheels start turning, and I've had this bike longer than any other bike. I've already cut off about ½ inch of the seat tube to fit a longer dropper in. Today we're gonna go even crazier. I'm gonna cut this whole gusset off and trim the seat tube to something like that. This extra 1.5 inches is doing nothing. This is blocking me when I do use saddlebags for bike packing. I can't get them up flush against this. I don't like the look of the seat tube gusset, and I'm bored. So I'm gonna cut that off. I'm also gonna cut off this little boss for an externally routed dropper. I'm never gonna have an externally routed dropper, so I'm just gonna sand that down. Now, titanium is easy to work with because you just brush the finish when you're done. I may be destroying a $2,400 frame, or I may just be making it super unique, unlike anything else out there. So here's the beautiful bike. Before I chop it up, I'm going to cut that off and grind it flush, and then I'm going to use my pipe cutter to cut this down. It should go without saying that you shouldn't do this, and I'm not recommending it. Goodbye resale value. Here's the mental part. I did not expect a hole in between each of those joints. Now I'm gonna have a hole in my top tube. Now it's pretty straightforward. Running the pipe cutter around this. If you guys are looking at an RSD bike, I used to be an ambassador for them. I'm not anymore, but I still love their products, and this is my most ridden hardtail out of all my hardtails. And one of my all-time favorites. It's tied for one of my all-time favorite hardtails with my Banshee Paradox. It's just so versatile though, and especially the titanium one. Anyway, if you're in the market for one, or any RSD bike, I've got a 5% off code in the description below. Just use the code PARTY. You can save 5% on any RSD bike or fork or product. Awesome that Alex will do that for you guys. He's a great guy. His customer service is second to none. He's probably hating me right now for doing this. All this video is going to do is convince nobody else to do this. I didn't even think about that hole there because they have to purge when they're welding titanium. One of the reasons it's so expensive is they have to fill it with gas to get clean, solid welds. This frame has the most beautiful welds I've ever seen on a frame. I've taken this to other bike builders and showed it to them, and they were welders, and they said, holy cow, that are some of the best welds I've ever seen. They said, whoever built that really knows what they're doing. I know Alex at RSD has super high standards, and I think he's got one of the best, if not the best, welders on the planet building his frames. I've always said this bike rides like a dirt jumper with a dropper. Now it's gonna look like one. All right. This is my deburring tool. It has a cone on the inside with blades, and on this side it has an inverted cone. So that bevels the outer edge, and the other side bevels the inner. For this part, I don't have anything to clamp onto. I want this low to the ground, so I'm going to use the Feedback Sports Rack XL. This is how I store my bikes in the house. I really love these. Check them out. Boom. And they got them for different size tires and all that. I use the XL for the Plus tires. I've got a link to these in the description below. All right, we're getting there. It's getting closer. It still looks rough. I need to do some sanding. You can still see a little bit of the residue from where the weld lump is. I need to sand that down a little. It looks rough, but what you don't realize is I did that up here too, to this whole part, to get that anodizing off, and it looks great now. So just give it time. It'll look good. All right, we got this all smooth, and now I'm just sanding it down to take out. We went from rough sandpaper and we're slightly going lighter and lighter. It's a great little sander, especially because it has these Scotch-Brite pads built in. The maroon Scotch-Brite pad is the final finish that we use on this frame anyway, so that's really cool that we can work up to it. So I'm gonna do, I think this is about a 400 grit sandpaper, then the white Scotch pad, then the maroon Scotch pad. It's not perfect, but it sure looks good from afar. Next up is to cut the slit in the back and get that seat collar on, then pull the wheel and get rid of that. There we have it. I got rid of that extra cable guide back there. Got that slit cut in nicely. And got that removed. I'm gonna have to get some work done, get that plugged, or find a little silver sticker to cover it, or another sticker. I will work on that. That was a surprise. The next step of our project is to install this Enve mountain rigid fork. This thing is awesome. It's carbon, it weighs 1.5 pounds. We've got water bottle bosses on the sides. It has a really cool cable retention system. And we're going to be installing Enve's brand new alloy mountain stem. This is a cheaper alternative to their carbon stems. So if you want to run matching Enve bars and Enve stem, now you have a more affordable way to do that. So we'll be putting this on as well. One other super cool feature about this fork is it has adjustable fork offset from +55 offset to +44 offset. I'll be doing a video coming up showing the difference between the two and what it feels like to explain that, because a lot of people still don't understand how different offsets feel and whether they should change the offset of their fork or not. So that's pretty exciting. It also comes with a really cool carbon fiber fender that just pops right in there. This is a really well designed fork. This is gonna be great for bike packing, for sprinting around on single speed, and just getting a livelier feel on trails that don't have a whole lot of bumps on them. We all love a super aggressive bike, but if your trails aren't super aggressive, it's actually more fun to possibly be on a rigid fork. Now we put this supplied expanding wedge in here, and we torque this to 8 Newton meters. Now we're going to pop the fender on, and this is so cool the way they do this. There's a little groove here for the cable, and this carbon fender pops right in. No tools necessary. Super cool. Best fender design I've seen yet, and best retention design I've seen for the housing. Now, because you can change the offset here, it comes with a whole bunch of different bolts and spacers that you need to run. And unfortunately, my least favorite part about this is it has a max rotor of 180. I get that most people running a rigid fork don't need a 200 mil rotor, but I like it. I wish there was a way to run a 200 mil rotor on here. I might be able to with an adapter. I'll try and figure that out later, but I don't want to void the warranty. It probably isn't built to brace against 200 mil rotors either, so I can respect that. Man, this is a beautiful fork. Really nice attention to detail. Even has clearance for a 29 by 3.0, which is awesome. Always better to have too much clearance than not enough. It makes my 35 mil helm almost look small. That thing is beefcake. The makeover is complete. What a gorgeous bike. And while I never build bikes just for looks, they always serve a function. This is one of the most beautiful builds I've done yet. Sometimes less is more, and in the case of this build, I think we've truly achieved that. Not only is it stunning to look at, but it's simple. Rigid fork, single speed, metal frame, and a dropper. It doesn't get much better than that. I love a hardtail with big plus tires. It's just so much fun, and I love a rigid fork. This fork has been suspension corrected for a 120 mil fork. That means it has the axle to crown of a 120 mil suspension fork, except there's no sag, so the front end's gonna stay high, the head angle's gonna stay slack, and the geometry's not gonna change as I ride. So my head angle will actually feel a little bit slacker than with my 130 fork, which is always riding at sag and moving with bumps. I love that it fits 29 by 3.0 tires. I love that it's got the bosses for rack mounts and bottle cages for bike packing. Enve designs a gorgeous product. It's hard to go wrong with an Enve product on your bike for looks alone. But I don't believe in making a bike beautiful just for looks. It should be functional, and I think this bike is gonna serve its function extremely well. I wanna give a huge thanks to Enve for sending me the fork and stem for review. I've got links to the products in the description below. Thanks for watching. There's a party in the mountains, and you're invited.